These are the oldest mountains on Earth, and they have spent 100 million years being worn down into something that looks harmless. You feel it the second you get here. The ridges do not stab at the sky the way the Rockies do. They roll. They soften into that blue haze that gives the Blue Ridge its name, a haze the trees themselves breathe out, and the whole range reads like a thing that used to be wild and has since been settled down. 200 years of axes and coal and bounties will do that. There are gravel forest roads up every hollow. There are church signs and Dollar Generals and gas station biscuits. It looks used up. It looks safe. So you act like it is. You cut the engine at a pull-off on the parkway and eat that biscuit while the fog burns off the valley below you. And you do not think about what is bedded down in the laurel 40 feet away. You walk a logging road at dusk with a headlamp swinging, kicking through wet leaves, and you think about nothing. You sit on a back porch in a hollow and listen to the creak in the screen door, and you never once wonder what is holding still in the rhododendron thicket at the edge of the yard, watching the light go. That is the trick these mountains play. Not silence, depletion. You have been told your whole life that the panthers and the wolves were shot out generations ago, that the mountains got logged flat and mined hollow, that whatever was dangerous up here is safely behind glass in a museum now. The wild reads like a historical marker. Past tense. It is not past tense. The animals are in the laurel by the porch. They are on the logging road you walk at dusk. They are in the fog in the valley under your pull-off, and most of them have been there the whole time. So here are 16 dangerous animals still living across the Appalachians. And here's the twist. They are not ranked by which one could kill you fastest. They are ranked by how completely each one has dropped out of the picture you carry of your own mountains, from the ones you half remember to the one you are most certain is gone. Because number 1 is the animal your grandparents were paid a bounty to erase. And it is standing at a tree line right now, in a shape you would wave off as somebody's stray dog. Before we start counting down, if this is the kind of thing that lives in the back of your mind, the thought of how much country is still out there behind the country, take 2 seconds and subscribe. It genuinely helps the channel more than you would think. And I want to know one thing while you are here. Where in the world are you watching from right now? Drop it in the comments. I read them. Now let's climb up into it. Number 16, the copperhead. It is responsible for more venomous snake bites than any other snake in the United States, and you have almost certainly stepped within a few feet of one without knowing it. The reason is the way it is built to survive you. A rattlesnake warns you. A black racer runs. The copperhead does neither. Its camouflage is so good against dead leaves and pine straw that its entire strategy is to hold still and let you pass. And most of the time you do, because you are looking at the view and not at your own boots. Its bite is rarely fatal to a healthy adult, but that is not the point. The point is that it is the most common dangerous animal in these mountains, and it survives by being the one you never register at all. The denial here is the plainest kind. It hides inside how ordinary it is. Number 16 is the reminder that the thing most likely to be within arm's reach of you right now is the thing you have completely stopped looking for. Number 15, the timber rattlesnake. For most of the last 2 centuries, people did everything in their power to make this one vanish, and for a while they believed it worked. There were bounties. There were organized roundups where men hauled snakes out of den sites by the sackful, and it thinned them out badly. Today, the timber rattlesnake is listed as endangered in New Jersey, Ohio, Connecticut, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and Vermont, and it has been wiped out of Maine entirely. So an entire generation grew up certain the big rattler was gone from their woods. It is not gone. It is still coiled on the same sunny rock ledges its ancestors used, in the mountains of West Virginia and Western Virginia and Pennsylvania, denning in the same cracks for decades. It just got quiet, and it got rare enough that you stopped expecting it. The denial here is generational. Your grandfather was told the rattlesnakes were being cleared out, and he believed it, and he passed that belief down to you like an heirloom. Number 15. Number 14. The cottonmouth. This is the snake everyone in Appalachia is sure they have seen, and almost everyone is wrong. The cottonmouth, the true water moccasin, barely reaches the region at all. It presses up into the warm lowland edges of the far south, and it thins out fast as the land climbs. which means nearly every moccasin killed with a shovel at a mountain farm pond was a harmless northern water snake, thick and dark and bad-tempered, doing an impression of something it is not. So the real cottonmouth hides behind a myth of itself. It lives where you think it lives everywhere, which is nowhere near most of you, and it is genuinely dangerous where it does occur, gaping that white mouth in warning before it commits. But you cannot see the actual animal for the phantom you have built out of every dark snake you have ever startled at the water's edge. The denial here is mistaken identity. You have been killing the wrong snake for so long, you never learn the real one's address. Number 13. The Eastern Massasauga. There is a second rattlesnake up here, and hardly anyone believes it still exists. It is small, maybe 2 feet, thick-bodied, and it lives in the wet meadows and fens of the Allegheny Plateau, the western shoulder of the Appalachians in Pennsylvania. It is so reduced that it now sits on the federal threatened list. In Pennsylvania, of 19 populations that once existed, only 4 are left. 4. You could stand in the middle of its remaining range and never know a venomous snake was collapsing quietly around your ankles. And here's the detail that keeps it invisible. Its rattle is almost nothing. It is so small and so faint that people who hear it mistake it for the buzz of an insect, barely audible past 5 feet. The one warning system evolution gave it does not reach you. The denial here is built into a sound too soft to register. The snake is rattling. You just filed the noise under grasshopper and kept walking. Number 13 is proof that an animal can be dangerous, venomous, and standing right beside a highway, and still slip off the map entirely. Number 12, the Black Widow. Everything up to now has been something you could at least see coming if you looked. This one asks you to recalibrate what danger even looks like, because it is smaller than a nickel. The Black Widow carries a neurotoxin, drop for drop far stronger than a rattlesnake's, and it lives exactly where your hands go without your eyes. The underside of the woodpile you reload every October, the back corner of the shed, the lip of the outbuilding you reach into blind. It is not aggressive. It does not hunt you. It simply builds a messy, strong web in a dark, low place and waits. And the danger is entirely a function of you putting an unlooking hand where it lives. The denial here is about scale. Your fear is calibrated to size, to teeth and claws, and things that could look back at you, so a spider you could hide under a bottle cap does not read as a threat at all. Number 12 is the reminder that dangerous does not have to mean large. Sometimes it just has to be patient and lower than you were looking. Number 11, the bobcat. Now, we leave the cold-blooded things behind, and the disbelief gets harder to hold on to. The bobcat is a genuine predator, twice the size of a house cat, all muscle and silence, and it is dense across these mountains. Not rare. Dense. There are almost certainly more of them within a few miles of you than you would ever guess. And you have probably never seen one in your life. That gap between how many there are and how few anyone sees is the whole story of the animal. Bobcats move at dawn and dusk. They freeze when they hear you long before you hear them, and they treat a human on a trail as a thing to let pass. They have watched you far more often than you have watched them. The denial here is the trap of your own eyes. You assume that because you have never seen one, they must not be around, when the opposite is true. Their entire survival depends on you drawing exactly that conclusion. Number 11 is the empty woods fallacy, walking on 4 soft feet, and the woods were never empty. Number 10, the wild boar. In April of 1912, a man named George Gordon Moore stalked a private game preserve on Hooper Bald in the Snowbird Mountains of Graham County, North Carolina, with European wild boars shipped in through Berlin. There were only about 13 of them. Within a decade, they had broken out and gone feral in the Great Smoky Mountains, and they never stopped. Since the 1940s, the national park alone has had to kill or remove more than 13,000 of them, and they are still there, rooting up the forest floor, powerful and tusked and capable of real damage. But to almost everyone here, this is not a living animal, it is a story. A funny old anecdote about some rich man's exotic zoo from a century ago. The denial here is tense. You have filed the wild boar under history, past tense, a thing that happened, when it is a present tense population of hundreds of pounds of muscle still breeding in the laurel above the campground. An escaped ghost from 1912 that forgot to stop existing. Number 9. The golden eagle. We are at the halfway point, and if you are still climbing with me at number 9, you are clearly someone who actually wants to know what shares this country with us. So this is the moment to subscribe if you haven't, because everything above this line is the part people flatly refuse to believe is real. The golden eagle is the largest bird of prey on the continent, with a wingspan near 7 feet, and almost everyone thinks of it as a creature of the Rocky Mountains and the Western Canyons. It is not. There's a small, separate eastern population that breeds in the far north of Canada and funnels straight down the spine of the Appalachians every autumn, spending the whole winter on the steep forested ridges of West Virginia and the mountains south of there. The eastern population is estimated at 5,000 birds or more, and you never see them because nobody looks up in an Appalachian winter expecting an eagle that big. Researchers only proved how many there were by hiding motion-triggered cameras in remote clearings and baiting them with roadkill deer. On one mountain in North Carolina, a single camera collected over 1,000 photographs of golden eagles. The denial here is a map in your head that puts this bird 2,000 miles west of where it actually spends the winter. Number 9 is soaring over a ridge above you right now, and you are looking at your phone. Number 8. The fisher. This is a member of the weasel family, dark and low and built like a fanged ribbon, one of the very few animals fast and vicious enough to routinely kill and eat a porcupine. And it should not be here. Deforestation wiped the fisher out of the southern and central Appalachians generations ago. It came back because of one of the strangest deals in conservation history. In 1969, West Virginia sent a flock of its abundant wild turkeys north to New Hampshire, and in return, New Hampshire shipped roughly 24 fishers south to help rebuild the animal West Virginia had lost. Turkeys-for-weasels. And it worked. The fisher took hold and spread back through the mountains, and the people living among it have no idea it is there. The denial here is baked right into the name. It is called a fisher, and it does not fish, so the word itself points you at the wrong animal, at something aquatic and harmless. And the truth, a tree-climbing predator restored by a wildlife swap you never heard about, slides right past. Number 8 is the animal that came back through the mail. Number 7, the peregrine falcon. This is the fastest animal that has ever lived. In its hunting dive, the stoop, a peregrine can exceed 200 miles an hour and strike a flying bird hard enough to kill it on contact. And by the mid-1960s, it was completely gone from the eastern United States. DDT thinned its eggshells until they broke under the weight of the mother, and the entire eastern population blinked out. Then it came back, in one of the great conservation stories of the century. More than 6,000 captive raised falcons were released across North America, and by 1999, it was off the endangered list. But here's the part that keeps it a ghost. It came roaring back on coastal cliffs and city skyscrapers and bridges everywhere except the Appalachian Mountains it used to own. Its recovery on the ridgelines has badly lagged. In one recent Virginia breeding season of 31 pairs statewide, only 2 were in the mountains. The denial here is the recovery story itself. You heard the falcon was saved, so you stopped looking, and you never learned that in its old mountain domain, it is still barely hanging on. Number 7, the fastest thing alive, passing over a cliff at 200 miles an hour, and nobody up there is watching the sky. Number 6, the black bear. Now the animals stop being ones you might have missed and start being ones you cannot believe you missed. By the early 20th century, black bears had been wiped out of most of the central Appalachians, and an entire generation of people grew up in genuinely bear-empty woods. In Pennsylvania in the 1970s, there were only around 4,000 bears in the whole state. Today, there are roughly 18,000. In the 1990s, biologists were physically hauling bears in trucks to restock emptied mountains in Kentucky and Virginia, and it took. The largest predator most of you will ever share a ridge with did not just survive. It flooded back. The denial here is memory. The adults who set the tone, who taught you the woods were safe, learned that lesson in a decade when it was briefly true, and they never updated it. Their empty woods are your full ones. Number 6 is a 500-pound animal moving through country that its own recent absence taught everyone to think of as tame. Number 5, the elk. There used to be a distinct animal called the eastern elk, and it was enormous, and it was everywhere in these mountains. It is gone. Overhunting finished it, and by 1880 the U.S. government declared the eastern elk officially extinct. For over a century, the largest thing that had ever walked the Appalachian forest was a bone in a museum drawer. Except now there are elk on the ridges again. Between 1997 and 2002, Kentucky released more than 1,500 western elk into its reclaimed coal country, and that herd has since grown past 10,000 animals, the largest east of the Mississippi. In 2001 and 2002, 52 elk were released into the Cataloochee Valley of the Great Smoky Mountains, and they are still there, bulls bugling in the fog every fall. The denial here is flat disbelief. People see a 700-pound bull elk in the Carolinas and assume it escaped from somewhere, a farm, a zoo, anywhere but the truth, which is that a species this land declared dead in 1880 is breeding in the open again. Number 4, the cougar. In 2018, the United States government made it official. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service formally declared the eastern cougar extinct and struck it from the endangered species list. The last confirmed one had died in Maine back in 1938. By decree, the mountain lion does not exist east of the Mississippi, which is exactly what makes the next part so hard to hold in your head. On the 11th of June, 2011, a cougar was struck by an SUV and killed on the Wilbur Cross Parkway in Milford, Connecticut. It was the first confirmed wild cougar in that state in over a century. And when they ran its DNA, they found it had been born in the Black Hills of South Dakota and had walked roughly 1,500 miles east, one of the longest movements ever recorded for a land mammal, looking for a territory and a mate it never found. So officially, the eastern cougar is extinct, and unofficially, a young western one is fully capable of walking across the entire country and turning up in your headlights. The denial here is a signature on a federal document. The paperwork says impossible, so a real animal in the road becomes a thing that could not have happened. Number 4, declared extinct and still walking. Number 3, the gray wolf. This is the one nearly everyone is right about, and being right is precisely what blinds them. The gray wolf was hunted, trapped, and bountied out of the northern and central Appalachians by the early 20th century. There is no wild wolf population in these mountains today. The nearest breeding wolves live hundreds of miles away, in the western Great Lakes. When you say the wolves are gone from Appalachia, you are essentially correct, but hold that certainty next to what you just heard about the cougar. A mountain lion walked 1,500 miles across a continent to die in Connecticut. Wolves are among the greatest travelers alive, and a young dispersing wolf will cross astonishing distances looking for open country. The map says the nearest one is 500 miles off. The map is not a wall. Distance is the exact thing these animals are built to erase. The denial here is that distance reads as safety, as impossibility, when nothing in the natural world respects a straight line on a map. Number 3, truly gone, for now, and never as far away as the mileage makes it feel. Number 2, the red wolf. There is a wolf that belongs to these mountains completely, an animal whose entire native range sat inside the United States, much of it right here in the southern Appalachians. It is the red wolf, and it is the rarest wolf on Earth. It was declared extinct in the wild in 1980, rebuilt from just 14 surviving animals in captivity, and clawed partway back. And we tried to bring it home. Beginning in November of 1991, biologists released red wolf families into the Great Smoky Mountains, into Cades Cove and Tremont, the first wolves to walk that park since the 1800s. It did not hold. The pups did not survive. The adults drifted out of the park and off into private land. And in 1998, the whole effort was shut down. Today, the only wild red wolves left anywhere in the world are a cluster of around 24 animals in a few coastal counties of North Carolina. The denial here is grief that has hardened into a verdict. Everyone made their peace with losing this wolf, and then we watched ourselves fail to give it back, and that failure sealed the word gone over the Appalachians like a lid. Number 2. The wolf we could not put back even when we tried. And number 1. If you spent the whole climb up this list waiting for the wolf to come back, here it is, and it did not need our help at all. Number 1 is the eastern coyote, and I know how that sounds, because a coyote is the one animal on this whole list you are certain you already understand. But the animal trotting the Appalachian ridgelines today is not the little desert coyote from out west. As western coyotes pushed east across the last century into the vacuum the wolves left behind, they bred with the very wolves that were being wiped out. The result is a bigger, heavier, more powerful animal. Genetic work on hundreds of eastern coyotes found that while most of the genome is coyote, on average roughly a quarter of it is wolf, gray wolf, and eastern wolf both, with a little dog mixed in. Read that again. A quarter wolf. Walking your ridgelines right now, in numbers reaching into the millions across the east. It is large enough to take a deer. It hunts the exact ground the wolf hunted, fills the exact role the wolf filled, and it did it entirely on its own while we were spending years and fortunes failing to reintroduce the red wolf a few valleys over. The denial here is the deepest kind of all. It is a category. The wolf did come back to Appalachia. It simply came back wearing a shape you have a name for, a shape you dismiss, and so you look right at a quarter wolf standing at the edge of a field at dawn, and you think, it's just a coyote, and you turn around and go back inside. Number 1. The wolf that never left. It only changed clothes. So here's what this list was really about. Not fear. If it were about fear, I would have ranked it by fangs, and it would have been a different 16 animals in a different order. It was about a picture. The one you carry of your own mountains, the worn down, used up, safe old Appalachians where nothing dangerous is left. Every animal on this list lives in the gap between that picture and the actual ground under your boots. The copperhead in the leaf litter you walked over this week, the golden eagle wintering on the ridge above the pull-off, the quarter wolf standing at the tree line in the fog. Go back to that morning, the engine ticking as it cools, the biscuit going cold in your hand, the fog lifting off the valley one gray layer at a time. And at the edge of the field where the trees start, 2 shapes step out of the mist and stand there, ears up, watching you with an attention that is much older than the road you drove in on. You will tell yourself they are somebody's dogs. They are not. They were here before the roads had names, and they carry the wolf in their blood, and they never agreed to stay out of your picture. They are just waiting for the fog to give them back. If you like this video, YouTube also thinks you're going to like the one on your screen right now.